Hello, I'm Chris Weir. Sport holds a unique place in Australian society. It celebrates our values of equity, fairness and participation and helps build social connection and cohesion. So, is racism in sport an issue in Australia? Australians of various colour, race and ethnic origin united as one to cheer home Cathy Freeman to gold in the final of the Sydney Olympic Games 400 metres. And in June 2006, an estimated 6.7 million Australians got up at 1 in the morning to watch Australia play Italy in the second round of the FIFA World Cup. That is 1 in 3 men, women and children in the country watching a game formerly known as wogball and passionately barricking for a multicultural mix of players with names such as Aloisi, Grella, Bresciano, Schwartzer and Viduka, to name a few. Every week, teammates and fans alike get out to support Indigenous players and those from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds in national, state and local sporting competitions. Be it league, union, netball, hockey, Australian rules football or basketball. It would seem that sport and sporting events are the ultimate cross-cultural mixing pot in Australia, a place where respect for ability and the camaraderie of teamwork overcomes intolerance and exclusion, and where we cheer on our champions no matter what the colour of their skin or the sound of their surname. However, don't believe the spin doctors. Racism exists in Australian sport, just as it does in the rest of society. In some quarters, there is a perception and portrayal that the battle against racism has been won. But just when it seems as though racial and religious vilification laws and anti-discrimination policies in our national sporting codes are working effectively, along comes another racial incident by one of our sports people or commentators to remind us that the issue remains very much alive. If it's not former South Sydney NRL captain Bryson Fletcher giving the Indigenous Parramatta player Dean Widders a verbal racist spray in an NRL game in 2005, then it's Australian rugby union player Justin Harrison racially sledging his opposition's winger in a 2005 Super 12 game, or it's an under-12 football coach allegedly screaming racist abuse at young Sudanese boys in a North Melbourne league, or in 2013 where Aboriginal footballer Adam Goodes was racially sledged by a 13-year-old girl as he went near the stands in a match against Collingwood. These incidents are not isolated. Racism has been the ugly underbelly of Australian sport for over a century. Racial abuse between players on the field only attracted any real attention following the first ever formal complaint lodged by Essendon's Michael Long in 1995. And even this only became public following Long's dissatisfaction at the outcome of the hastily organised mediation. As a result, in June 1995, the AFL implemented Rule 30, a rule to combat racial and religious vilification. A decade later, these vilification rules have filtered down to junior, suburban and regional Australian football competitions in all states and have been replicated by other sporting organisations and codes. Racism has been identified by a range of national sporting codes in Australia as being a significant issue. As a result, many individual codes have put in place a range of anti-racism strategies and initiatives to address the issue. It has taken great courage for many Indigenous sportsmen and women to overcome racial prejudices in order to excel at their chosen sport. Their efforts have paved the way for change, albeit slow, as the sporting community shows a greater understanding of the issues confronting Aboriginal players. Further, their achievements have broken down barriers and made them role models for the Indigenous and non-Indigenous people alike. Racist attitudes and racist behaviour is just as likely to include an emphasis on culture as it is on colour, including religion, language, ethnicity and national origins. Recent incidents of racism and vilification might include a young Muslim woman being abused for wearing her headscarf during a junior soccer match, or an Iraqi refugee being harassed at a basketball game. Sport provides an excellent vehicle for establishing norms of behaviour that can be emulated by the rest of society, particularly by young people. Sport offers opportunities to break down barriers and encourage participation in a way that other areas of society may struggle to match. Racism exists in Australian sport, just as it does in the rest of society. Much can and is being done to counter racism and prejudice in sport through a range of member protection policies and programs established by sporting codes that promote positive awareness of cultural, religious and ethnic diversity. Comprehensive racial discrimination laws have been introduced and administered by the Human Rights Equal Opportunities Commission at a federal level, as well as a state and territory anti-discrimination commissions. In Australia, federal laws exist to protect people against racial discrimination in all areas of life, including sport. The Racial Discrimination Act aims to ensure that people are treated equally, regardless of their race, colour, national and ethnic origin, descent, ethnic or ethno-religious background. The Racial Hatred Act extends to the coverage to allow people to make a complaint if they feel they have had racially offensive or abusive behaviour directed at them. The RDA aims to strike a balance between the right to communicate freely and the right to live free from vilification. There is also legislation in place in every state and territory making discrimination and harassment in relation to a person's race, colour, national and ethnic origin, descent, ethnic or ethno-religious backgrounds unlawful. Under racial discrimination legislation, a sporting organisation may also be held vicariously liable if people representing the organisation, such as coaches, board members, managers, officials, etc., behave unlawfully in the course of their duties. The sporting organisation would need to show that they took all reasonable steps to prevent the unlawful acts, such as establishing codes of conduct, policies and procedures, and providing education and training to the members to avoid liability. Racial discrimination legislation also defines certain harassing behaviours as offensive behaviours and as being unlawful. Under the legislation, offensive behaviour is doing an act in public because of the race, colour or national or ethnic origin of a person or group of people that is reasonably likely to offend, insult, humiliate another person or a group of people. Racial vilification is defined as any act or form of behaviour that happens publicly which could incite others to hate, threaten, ridicule, insult or show contempt towards another person on the basis of that person's race, religion, colour, descent or national or ethnic origin. Racism in sport is a complex problem. It can include racism, discrimination, harassment or vilification by players directed at other players, by spectators directed at players, or racist behaviour among rival spectator groups which spills over into disruptions and violence in the stands. It also includes the actions of sporting officials and coaches, as well as media commentators. Hopefully, by tackling prejudice and bigotry in sport, the effects will ripple through all other aspects of society, and that racism, xenophobia and intolerance will be dealt a red card for good. Spectator racism guidelines are intended to promote best practice responses to spectator racism at the professional sporting level. They identify actions that can be taken consistently across sporting codes to ensure that spectators, officials and players are safe and aware of what to do and how to respond to incidents of spectator racism. They also propose proactive measures to prevent racism from occurring in the first place. Sporting organisations should be aware that racism at the institutional and systemic level undermines efforts to address spectator racism if it remains unaddressed. Racism is not acceptable in sport, anytime, anywhere. For that reason, every national sporting organisation must have a member protection policy in place. The member protection policy allows a sport to take action against people who exhibit racist behaviour, with sanctions that could range from mandatory education or bans from sport. Refer to the resources in the portal. The government agency Sport Integrity Australia is responsible for keeping sport safe and fair and works with all sports on their member protection policies. They can also receive and manage complaints about racism independent of any sporting organisation. If you witness or experience racism, you can report it confidentially to Sport Integrity Australia. Thank you for listening.